Okay, let's begin today's class. Today's topic is representation of data, part one, and we'll be going through all of whatever is in here. This is a continuation of what you come across at O level, and then we build up from there, and bring in A level things into the mix. Okay, the chapter is actually divided into two parts: representation of data part one and representation of data part two. That is for my own convenience of teaching and nothing to do with the syllabus in particular, and in terms of dividing for the homework. Okay, so the first thing that we talk about here is that a variable is qualitative if it is not possible for it to take the numerical values. A variable is quantitative if it can take numerical values. This simply means that you have two types of variables, qualitative and quantitative. When you have qualitative variables, let's say I go into my class and I ask you what your favorite color is. You can say red, yellow, green, blue, whatever the color may be. So the data that I will have will be qualitative data. It is going to be based on a quality variable, variable that defines a quality. If on the other hand, I go into my classroom and I ask you your math marks from the previous test, okay, that is going to be a quantitative variable, and you will have quantities defined. So someone might have gotten 30 marks out of 40 or 25 marks out of 40 or whatever the case may be. So that's a quantitative variable. This distinction is important because there are different ways of representing data which is qualitative and data which is quantitative. Okay, then quantitative variables can again be divided into two parts. Quantitative variables can be discrete or they can be continuous. Okay, quantitative variables can be discrete or continuous. When I say discrete, what I basically mean is that the variable can take on only, let's say, whole numbers. So when I come into a class, um, I can say that there are three chairs or four chairs or five chairs. I can never say that there are 3.5 chairs or 3.75 chairs or 3.6 chairs for that matter. Okay, why? Because chairs is not a continuous variable. Chairs is a discrete variable. Okay, on the other hand, continuous, for example, if I ask you what your weight is, you can say that let's say it's 55.5. Someone else can say that's 55.6. Someone else can then say that it's 55.65. So you can have different degrees of accuracy, and you can have different uh, numbers, decimal numbers for that variable. So it's the nature of the variable that defines whether it's discrete or continuous. It does not depend on uh, the data that you collect. So it's important to have that distinction between the two things. So remember that variables can be discrete or variables can be continuous. Again, why is the distinction important? Because when we go on and study probability, there are different ways of calculating probability for discrete variables and different ways of calculating probability for continuous variables as well. Okay. The first thing that I then have is discrete data. It says in a survey of 1 square meter pieces of land in a field, the number of snails in each of 30 pieces was recorded as follows. So number of snails, discrete variable. You cannot say that someone found 3.5 snails or 3.8 snails for that matter. So that is a discrete variable. So it's discrete data. Now, what is this? This is an example of discrete raw data. Raw data means that it's not organized into any particular um, table or diagram or classes for that matter. So it's just raw data. Students came into my class and they brought in their data. Okay, the first student said that I found one snail, then the second student said that I found two snails, then the third student said that I found four snails, and so on. Okay, when is this data going to make more sense? When I have this in a frequency distribution. A frequency distribution or a frequency table helps you make sense of the data, and then it helps you make diagrams or calculate mean, median, mode, whatever the case may be. So how is this table read? This frequency is basically how many students came in with zero snails. This 5 is basically how many students came in with one snail. So there were 5 students who found one snail, there were 11 students who found 2 snails, and so on. Okay, the frequency distribution can be represented diagrammatically by a vertical line graph or a bar chart. The height of the line or bar represents the frequency. So this is a line chart and a bar chart. क्या एक मिनट सॉरी हेलो ये मैं पीडीएफ बाद में भेज दूंगा, लिखा नहीं है मैंने कुछ ज़्यादा। ओके, अभी मैं नया चैप्टर बिल्कुल पढ़ा रहा हूँ बिकॉज आई डेंट वांट टू गो इनटू प्रोबेबिलिटी वाला पार्ट जो है वो भी समझाना मुश्किल हो जाता है ऑनलाइन क्लास में। इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ लॉट ऑफ डिसरप्शन। ये वो चीज़ें जो हमने पहले जो है वो ओ लेवल्स में देखी हुई है उसको कंटिन्यू करेंगे, उसमें कुछ और चीज़ें ऐड होंगी। So just make sure that you listen to the class today and take notes wherever necessary. मैं अभी थोड़े histograms वगैरह भी बनाऊंगा, so you need to be able to draw those as well on the exam के अंदर बनाने को आते हैं कहीं। Okay, okay. So this is an example of a line chart, and this is a bar chart. सही है। आपने बार चार्ट्स पहले भी देखे हैं। बार चार्ट्स में एक प्राइमरी फीचर होता है दैट इज नॉट विजिबल ऑन दिस डायग्राम। बार चार्ट्स टिपिकली हैव स्पेसेस बिटवीन बार्स। इट्स नॉट नेसेसरी, typically spaces between bars. Not necessary yet. It's important to understand that uh, that's the primary distinguishing factor between a bar chart and a histogram. एक और primary important चीज़ जो होती है वो ये होती है कि देखें, this is not an axis. These are called bar labels. So each bar has a label. Let's say if I collected your favorite color, the data of your favorite color, these bars would have labels red, yellow, blue, green, white, whatever the case may be. So bars have labels. This 0 is therefore not really an axis. If it would have been an axis, यहाँ पे 0 label हुआ होता, और फिर यहाँ पे 1 label होता, and so on. So remember that when you draw bar charts and line charts, you're not drawing an axis on the horizontal. You're just putting out bar labels. They could be any labels depending on what your data is. If you didn't want to draw bars, you could instead draw lines. That's not what you typically do, but in case it's drawn, that's how you read it. Okay, so I've never seen a question where you asked to draw a bar chart on an A-level math exam, but there is a question which says that what is the best form of representing this data. Okay, then you have continuous data. The following data were obtained in a survey of the heights of 20 children in a sports club. Each height was measured to the nearest centimeter. Why is this continuous data? Now you might argue that these are all whole numbers. मैंने अभी whole numbers के बारे में कहा था कि उनको discrete कहते हैं, but यहाँ तो मैं कह रहा हूँ कि continuous है because nature of the variable decide करती है कि whether it's discrete or continuous. You don't look at the numbers and decide whether it's discrete or continuous. You look at the variable and you decide whether it's discrete or continuous. Okay, so this is an example of continuous raw data. So again, these are um, they're not organized into particular frequency tables. That is because when you organize continuous data into classes, what you need is into a frequency table, what you need is classes. These are all classes. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 classes that I've divided the data into. Now there are different ways of writing these classes. These are written with inequalities. That's absolutely fine if you want to write with inequalities. I can write the same with dashes, it doesn't matter. But this third one has a primary difference. If you notice that in between the second and the third one, numbers में difference है. Why is there a difference in numbers? Because these classes are connected. These are not connected. Now remember that whenever you have data, continuous data in a frequency table and you have classes, always make sure कि पहला काम आप ये करें कि आप जो है वो classes को connect कर लें आपस में। अगर आपने classes को connect नहीं किया और फिर जो भी operation करना है आपने करना शुरू कर दिया, चाहे वो histogram बनाना है, चाहे वो cumulative frequency बनाना है, तो वो गलत बनेगा। And it's important to know this distinction right at the start because then it creates problems later on if you miss this step. तो आपने क्या कहा कि सर ये क्लासेस कनेक्टेड नहीं है, 124 और 125 के बीच में गैप आ रहा है कि अगर किसी बच्चे की हाइट जो है वो 124.5 है तो उसको किस कैटेगरी में रखना चाहिए, पहली वाली में या दूसरी वाली में। तो आप क्या करेंगे, You will take these boundaries, 124 plus 125, and you will divide by 2. That gives you 124.5. So this boundary will also change to 124.5. This boundary will also change to 124.5. Similarly, this will also change to 129.5 and 129.5. Then 134.5 and 134.5. Then 139.5 and 139.5. Then 144 is the last number that's left. There's no further class after this. So what you can then say is कि instead of guessing, I can just say that जितना पहले वाली बाउंड्री में subtract किया था उतनी इस बाउंड्री में मैं add कर दूंगा. सही है. And same will be the case for the first boundary. Although there's no number to sort of add with it and then divide by 2, I will still go on and change these बाउंड्रीज. सो अब ये सारी क्लासेस आपस में कनेक्टेड हैं. अब चाहे मैं जो इस पे ऑपरेशन करना चाहूँ मैं कर सकता हूँ. आई कैन डू draw a histogram or draw a cumulative frequency curve or calculate the mean, median, mode, whatever the case may be. Okay. Okay. Then this is an important new diagram. Some of you may have seen it in syllabus D. It's not part of the syllabus in O-level math, but at the same time, it's there in the book. So if you've seen it before, that's well and good. If you haven't seen this before, please look at it carefully. You will repeatedly see stem and leaf diagrams on your exam, so you must know how to draw them. Okay. Now I'm going to draw them twice just to show you something. Was like a very useful way of grouping data into classes while still retaining the original data. So remember that this, what I've written here, is an advantage of stem and leaf diagrams. Okay. So how is this an advantage of stem and leaf diagram? If I show you the previous table, let's say अगर इस data को जो है वो मैं classes में लगाने जाता, okay? So let's say हाँ ये 133 जो है वो इस category में आ रहा है. So हम देख लेते हैं इस category में और क्या क्या आ रहा है. 133 आएगा, 133 आएगा, 131 है, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would have written कि इसकी frequency जो है वो 7 है. Now this 7 tells me that there are 7 observations inside this class, but individual observations क्या थी वो मुझे पता नहीं चल रहा. So in order to retain the original individual observations as well, मैं आपसे क्या कहूँगा कि what I can do in this stem and leaf diagram is to what I do in this stem and leaf diagram is basically I retain the original data set as well, और फिर भी मैं इनको classes में भी divide कर लूँगा. वो कैसे करते हैं ज़रा करके देख लेते हैं. Stem and leaves. Okay. Every number now, since this is a 2-digit number, I can split one into stem and one into leaf. इसको दो हिस्सों में break कर देंगे. यहाँ पे 3-digit numbers है next question में, तो उनको 2 और 1 में break कर देंगे. Leaves हमेशा single digit होते हैं. सही है. Leaves are always single digit. Okay. Leaves are always single digit. Let's divide into stems. I can see that the numbers go from 17 to 84. That's the smallest and largest numbers. So I'm going to say that my stems are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. Then what is my first number? 84. So I'm going to write 4 in this category. And the next number is 17. So I'm going to write it in this category. 38. So I'm going to write it in this category. 45. So I'm going to write it in this category. 47. So I'm going to write 7 after this. Okay. Now remember that when I write 7, I cannot put a comma. Don't put a comma when you are drawing a stem and leaf diagram. That's wrong. You have to make sure that you leave a certain amount of space and then write your number, whatever your number may be. 53. So 53, 76, 54, 75, 22, 66, 65, 55, 54, 51, 44, 39, 19, 54, and 72. Okay, now one thing that I've not done in this stem and leaf diagram is that um, all these values that I've written here, all these leaves have to be in ascending order. So if they're not in ascending order, I need to make them in ascending order. So when I'm doing this on the exam, what I can do is I've drawn it once, I'll start drawing it again. I know the numbers that I need to write. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw another stem and leaf diagram, and then I'm going to cancel the old one. Right? If I have space, I can do it twice. If you want to directly draw it in ascending order, that's your call. थोड़ा सा ढूंढना पड़ता है वैल्यूज को, बट वो भी पॉसिबल है. मैं अभी नेक्स्ट वाले में करके आपको दिखा दूंगा. Okay, so 7 and 9 were in the right ascending order. 2 was also there. 8 and 9 were also in ascending order. These weren't. 4, 5, and 7. 1, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 2, 5, 6, and 4. Okay, so that's stem and leaf. On the exam, if you've done it twice, please make sure that you cancel the old one. Right? You just cross it out so that the examiner knows that this is your final stem and leaf diagram. One thing that this is still missing is what we call a key. You should tell the examiner how you are trying to read the stem and leaf diagram, because it's important to for the uh, for any stem and leaf diagram, and you'll see this in the next question कि भाई key के बगैर जो होता है वो stem and leaf diagram irrelevant होता है, and different keys can mean different things, so it's important to have a key. Okay, so what is um, the key? You can pick up any set of values. मैंने लिखा 5/1 means, I'm going to say means what? It means 51 marks. Okay, आगे जाके आपको नजर आएगा कि this same thing could also say that, for example, 51 means 5.1 or 0.51 or something else for that matter. So you can have different sort of readings for different keys depending on how you've put out your data set. Okay, okay, let's move on. क्या दोबारा बोलो? देखो की कोई भी एक नंबर उठाएंगे हम, सही है. Let's say you picked up 3/8. How would you read that? 38 marks. So whatever your data is, you write it according to that. You just pick up one value and you write your key. Okay. Okay. Then this is another data set that I have. It says the tensile strength of 60 samples of rubber was measured, and the results in suitable units were as follows. 174, 160. There are a lot of data points here. Okay, you can also see that there are about 60 samples. Now, if I start drawing a stem and leaf diagram, it's going to take me long. I'm not going to draw this entirely for you, but I have to tell you a few things in this stem and leaf diagram. That's what I'm going to do right now, and we'll see what the things are. There is something it says here: construct a stem and leaf diagram using 2 rows for each stem. So that, for example, with this team of 15 members, 15, the first leaf may have digits 0 to 4, and the second leaf may have digits 5 to 9. Okay, so now instead, acha, one thing that I forgot to tell you here, let's first go back and look at this again. What I wanted to tell you here was कि देखिए अभी भी मैंने जो है वो डेटा को जो है वो क्लासेस में डिवाइड किया हुआ है. So this first class has all the data from 10 to 19. The second class has all the data from 20 to 29. The third class has all the data from 30 to 39, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, and so on. So yeah, so I've still done everything into classes, and I've retained the original data set as well कि आप कोई डेटा पढ़ के मुझे बताना चाहते हैं तो की मदद से आप मुझे पढ़ के बता सकते हैं. Another advantage that I wanted to show you was it shows the shape of the data. Okay, it shows you the shape of the data. How does it show you the shape of the data? Look at this. What I've done is, because मुझे frequency of observations नजर आ रही थी, तो मैंने क्या कर लिया, एक हिस्टोग्राम टाइप कुछ बना के आपको दिखा दिया कि भाई आपको नजर आ रहा है नाउ दैट डेटा जो है वो किस किस क्लास में ज़्यादा है, किस क्लास में कम है. सो इट शोज यू द शेप ऑफ द डेटा. अभी शेप ऑफ द डेटा के बारे में हम और भी बात करेंगे, बट ब्रीफली जो है वो आपको एक हिस्टोग्राम बनता हुआ नजर आ रहा है. इफ आई want to look at it horizontally, I can also look at it horizontally. ये सेम मैंने वो रोटेट किया हुआ हिस्टोग्राम आपके लिए बना दिया. ओके, सो यू कैन देन से कि सर सबसे ज़्यादा डेटा जो है वो 50 to 59 के बीच में एंड सो ऑन. ओके, बेटा हमास वो उस पर रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है. देयर इज अ स्ट्रीम ऑन यूट्यूब, जो मिस हुआ है बाद में जाके देख लेना. अभी तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें मैंने कराई हैं बिकॉज आई एम गोइंग quicker with this. It's getting recorded as well, and a lot of this is from O level math. अभी ये वाली चीज़ थोड़ी सी नहीं थी. So if you miss something, you can go back and look at it. अभी सारी चीज़ें अलग अलग आएंगी इसमें. There's no one thing that I can sort of repeat for you. Okay. Okay. So this says construct a stem and leaf diagram using two rows for each stem, so that, for example, with a stem of 15, the first leaf may have digits 0 to 4. Now what it's saying is कि अगर मेरे पास जो है वो थोड़ा ज़्यादा डेटा है, मैं अगर 15 का एक ही स्टेम बना लूँ, तो देखो उसमें कितनी ऑब्जर्वेशन मुझे लिखनी पड़ेंगी. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so I'll have to write 11 observations like that. 11 leaves उसके आ जाएंगे, 16 के और भी ज़्यादा leaves आ जाएंगे, सही है, and 18 के भी इतने सारे leaves आ जाएंगे. So what the question is asking me to do is, instead of breaking it into one leaf, one stem, the question is saying that you can break every category into two stems. So 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18. So yeah, I just want to show you कि इसमें organize कैसे होगा. I'm not going to do this completely. It's a long stem and leaf diagram. Typically on the exam you will not have so many entries, maximum 20 entries वाला stem and leaf diagram होता है, या 20-22 के आसपास होगा. Not 60, not never crossing 30 for that matter. Okay, so for example, if you have 174, you will tell me sir इसको पहले वाले 17 के साथ लिखें, because the boundaries are from 170 to 174, and then 175 to 179 वाली अगली कैटेगरी में चली जाएंगी. So 160 भी पहली वाली में आएगा, 141 भी पहली वाली में आएगा, 153 भी पहली वाली में आएगा, 161 भी यहाँ पे ही आएगा. 159 would go into the second 15 stem. Why? Because the second is from 155 to 159. Then 163 is also going to go here. 186 goes into the last one. Okay, so I hope you understand what I'm trying to do. Again, I can do it directly in ascending order. That's my call. So you can go ahead and do that, and uh, you can come up with. एक मिनट.
सर मुझे समझ नहीं आया.
क्या नहीं समझ आया?
मैंने इसको 2 में डिवाइड क्यों किया, फिर फर्दर इसके अंदर
क्योंकि इट इज इसने एक तो क्वेश्चन में कहा हुआ है कि 2 में डिवाइड करो, एंड द सेकंड थिंग इज कि उसे कहा हुआ है क्वेश्चन में 15 the first leaf may have digits 0 to 4 and the second leaf may have digits 5 to 9. So what I have tried to do is कि जब सेकंड में आ रहा है तो फिर वो 5 to 9 वाले लीफ. ओके,
Oh,
सही है। और फिर क्या लिखना जरूरी है, इर्तिजा यहाँ पे अभी भी की लिखना जरूरी है। ओके, सो यू पिक अप
yes.
एनी नंबर एंड यू राइट 15/3 मींस व्हाट, 153। ओके, ताकि एग्जामिनर को पता हो कि भाई आपने कैसे रीड करना है।
सर इसमें की भी दो दफा लिखनी पड़ेगी फिर,
नहीं, एक ही दफा बस।
15/3 और फिर 5 to 9 वाली अलग नहीं
नहीं, इट वुड स्टिल बी द सेम की ना, तुम 15/9 भी लिखते तो 159 ही बनता ना।
लिखनी। अच्छा हाँ ठीक।
It tells you any number के की को रीड कैसे करना है. That's going to become clear in the next question. Just hold on. Okay. Okay. Look at this. It says look at the stem and leaf diagram for each of the three keys provided. Give the value ringed. Okay. This is the value ringed. उसने एक वैल्यू को जो है वो सर्कल किया हुआ है, आपने इसको रीड करके बताना है। और उसने यहाँ पे आपको 3 कीज बताई हैं, सही, इन कीज के हिसाब से आपने रीड करके बताना है। ओके, सो द फर्स्ट की, the first key says the width of 30 metal components. Okay, so how do you, और वो कहते हैं 1/2 means 1.2. So what is this 1/9? इसको कैसे रीड करेंगे? How do you think I should read this?
1.9
1.9 centimeters. Okay, if I was using the second key, I would say that this means 19 hundredths of a second. Okay, hundredths कहते हैं divide by 100 को, so I can also say that this means 19/100, which is 0.19. Okay, Fed says the attendance at 30 matches, so that's going to be 1900 people. So I can read any value. And now Irtiza, you can also see कि अब उसने जो है ना वो बहुत सारे stems में break किया हुआ है, सही है, अपने कन्वीनियंस के लिए कि भाई किसी एक स्टेम में, अब आप सोचो कि अगर 1 का सिर्फ एक ही स्टेम होता तो कितनी सारी वैल्यूज उसमें आ रही होती, 0 में 2 आ रही होती, तो बड़ा ऑकवर्ड सा एक स्टेम एंड लीफ डायग्राम बन जाता जो आपको शेप ऑफ द डेटा तो नहीं दिखा रहा होता, उसमें हिस्टोग्राम का कोई सेंस भी नहीं बन रहा होता, या आपने जो है वो एक बार इतनी लंबी बना दी जो बिल्कुल सेंस ही नहीं बना रही है, उसमें कोई आपको रिप्रेजेंटेशन का कोई फायदा ही नहीं हो रहा। सो इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट कि भाई स्टेम एंड लीफ डायग्राम अगर बहुत ज़्यादा कंजेस्टेड है तो आप उसको ब्रेक डाउन करें। टिपिकली क्वेश्चन आपको खुद ही बता देगा एग्जाम के अंदर कि आपने क्या करना है।
सर ये फर्स्ट पार्ट कैसे किया repeat करेगा?
हमास मैंने ये जो वैल्यू थी इसको रीड करके बताया है। दिस 9 वाज सर्कल्ड, सो आई रेड 9, सो 1/9 बन रहा था। उसने बताया था पहली की के हिसाब से दीज आर 3 कीज दैट आर गिवन टू यू। उसने कहा था पहली की क्या कहती है, द विड्थ ऑफ 30 मेटल कंपोनेंट्स की 1/2 मींस 1.2, तो मैंने 1/9 को कैसे रीड किया, 1.9 रीड किया। थर्ड वाली 1/2 मींस 1200 पीपल, तो मैंने कहा 1900 पीपल। सो ये अलग अलग डेटा सेट्स हैं, 3 बंदों ने अलग अलग डेटा सेट को अपना कंपाइल किया, सबका स्टेम एंड लीफ डायग्राम एक जैसा दिख रहा है लेकिन सबकी कीज अलग अलग हैं। एक बंदे ने मेटल कंपोनेंट्स का डेटा कलेक्ट किया था, एक ने 30 मैचेस का डेटा कलेक्ट किया था। ओके, so you can have the same stem and leaf diagram but different keys and they would be completely different data sets then. Okay, okay, इसका पार्ट 2 देखो, पार्ट बी देखो, द width of the interval containing the ringed value। अब width of the interval क्या होता है, width of the interval अभी आगे आएगा, अपर बाउंड्री माइनस लोअर बाउंड्री। अब अगर मैं यहाँ पे आपको दिखाऊं, इस वाले की बात करते हैं, इसमें कौन कौन सी डेटा सेट की वैल्यूज आ सकती है, 1/4 आ सकता है और 1/5 आ सकता है, 1/6 अगले वाले में चला गया है और 1/3 होता तो यहाँ पे आ रहा होता, सही है। सो इस फॉर एग्जाम्पल उसकी विड्थ क्या बनेगी, की के हिसाब से बनेगी। अब यहाँ पे अगर मैं इस कैटेगरी की विड्थ देखूं तो यहाँ पे दो तरह की वैल्यूज आई हुई है, 1/8 आया हुआ है और 1/9 आया हुआ है। अगर मैं की नंबर 1 के हिसाब से देखूं तो ये बनता है 0.18 to 0.19, सॉरी 1.8 to 1.9, सॉरी 1.8 to 1.9, कि 1.8 सेंटीमीटर का मेटल कंपोनेंट होगा तो भी वो इस कैटेगरी में आ रहा होगा, 1.9 सेंटीमीटर का मेटल कंपोनेंट होगा तो भी इस कैटेगरी में आ रहा होगा। सो इसकी विड्थ क्या बन जाएगी, विड्थ इसकी बन जाएगी 0.1 सेंटीमीटर्स। सेकेंड वाले की क्या हो जाएगी, 0.18 से 0.19, 0.01 सेकेंड्स विड्थ। और तीसरे वाले की क्या बन जाएगी, 1800 पीपल टू 1900 पीपल। विड्थ कितनी बन जाएगी, 100 पीपल। ओके, मैंने अभी पहले भी बताया था ना, ये हिस्टोग्राम की तरह ही होता है कि अगर मैं इसको रोटेट करके आपको दिखाऊं तो ये क्लासेस में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा, जैसे मैंने अभी पहले करके आपको दिखाया था। सो दैट इज हाउ इट वर्क्स। ओके, एनी क्वेश्चंस एट दिस पॉइंट? मीटिंग की ड्यूरेशन नहीं नजर आ रही। चलो, whatever the case may be. Okay, then there is something called back to back stem plots. Okay, back to back stem plots क्या होते हैं, उसी तरह होते हैं जिस तरह स्टेम एंड लीफ डायग्राम से, लेकिन अब मेरे पास दो डेटा सेट हैं, एक फ्रेंच का है और इंग्लिश का है। अब मैं क्या करूंगा, मैं इनको बैक टू बैक स्टेम प्लॉट में बनाऊंगा, और कैसे बनाऊंगा ये और से देखिएगा। दिस इज अ वेरी कॉमन क्वेश्चन ऑन द एग्जाम, यू आर आस्क्ड टू ड्रॉ दिस, you will see this in the homework questions as well. Let's see. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put French on one side and English on the other. Okay, और मैं जो है वो इनके बीच में कॉमन स्टेम्स लिखूंगा। कॉमन स्टेम में कैसे लिखूंगा, आई नो दैट द वैल्यूज आर गोइंग फ्रॉम 31 टू 81 यहाँ पे, एंड वो भी 30 से 80 जा रहे हैं। सो 3 4 5 6 7 एंड 8। ओके, फर्स्ट आई एम गोइंग टू, अब ये मेरी चॉइस अभी तो है कि मैंने राइट साइड पे फ्रेंच लिख दिया और लेफ्ट साइड पे इंग्लिश लिख दिया। ऑन द एग्जाम देयर आर सम क्वेश्चंस जो आपको बताता है कि भाई आपने इस साइड पे ये लिखना है और उस साइड पे वो लिखना है, बॉयज का डेटा इधर लिखना है, गर्ल्स का डेटा इधर लिखना है। प्लीज फॉलो द इंस्ट्रक्शंस, इफ यू डू दैट रॉन्ग एक मार्क डिडक्ट हो जाता है फॉर नॉट फॉलोइंग द इंस्ट्रक्शंस, चाहे आपने बाकी सारा सही भी क्यों ना किया। ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट ऑर्गेनाइजिंग द डेटा। 30s में कौन कौन से है, 31 और 32 है, तो मैंने यहाँ पे ला के लिख दिया 31 एंड 32। ओके, फिर जो है इज अ डार्कर कलर, फिर 40s का डेटा। 40s में क्या क्या है, 44 44 45 46 4 4 5 6 और 7। अब मैं डायरेक्ट असेंडिंग ऑर्डर में लिख रहा हूँ, देखो थोड़ी सी एक्स्ट्रा मेहनत करनी पड़ी है कि मुझे ढूंढने पड़े नंबर्स। आई कुड डू इट ट्वाइस एज वेल इफ आई वांटेड, दैट्स माय कॉल। ओके, और फिर 50s का डेटा 50 0 3 3 0 3 3 7 8 8 1 1 6 9 5 8 81। Here, that's all of French. Now, please look at it carefully when I do the English part. थोड़ा सा इसमें एक change आएगा, सही? I want you to notice that change. The first is 38, तो मैंने यहाँ पे लिख दिया, सही? And with 40s, 3 4 4. So I'm going to write 3 4 4. This is the way that I'm going to arrange it in ascending order, starting from right and then going to left, जिस तरह उर्दू में लिखते हैं. Okay, so that is how you have to organize this data set. Then only will you get a back to back stem plot, वरना वो गलत हो जाएगा. 1 2 2 7 9 Oh, sorry, मैं 70s पे चला गया. I should do 50s first, right? 2, 6, and 8. Okay. 3, 5, 5, 8, and 9. 1, 2, 2, 7, 4, 5. Okay. फिर इसकी की कैसे लिखते हैं? Please look at this carefully. इसकी की लिखते हैं इस तरह. I can pick up any data set, any set of values. मैंने लिखा 3/6/1 means what? Means 63 marks in English and 61 marks in French. You could pick up any set of values. आप कहते हैं कि सर मुझे जो है ना ये 80s वाली आसान लग रही है, मैं इसको पिक कर लूँ. आप लिखते हैं 84 marks in English and 81 marks in French, depending on which side you are talking about. कि भाई you will have to explain to me how you are reading that data set. What is the advantage of a back-to-back stem plot? The advantage of a back-to-back stem plot is very simple. It allows you to compare data sets. For example, I am a teacher who teaches, both French and English. मेरे पास सेम बच्चे हैं दोनों classes में, and I've taken an exam right now, and I'm comparing the performance of the class in both English and French. Which would you tell me is better performance, English or French? किस में better performance है? Anyone? Where are students performing better? Which marks are higher?
English.
English में बेहतर हैं, सही. I can see that English में बेहतर हैं because a lot of students are scoring between 70 and 79. I can see that most of the students in French are scoring between 50s and 59s. With by looking at this data set, I can also tell you what the lowest value is, what the highest value is. And if I start counting, अभी आगे जाके करूँगा अभी, I can count the median, I can tell you the quartiles, कितना spread out है data set. तो कंपैरिजन जो होता है वो इनेबल हो जाता है व्हेन यू ड्रॉ बैक टू बैक स्टेम प्लॉट्स. ओके, सो दैट इज अनदर पार्ट ऑफ द वो चैप्टर के भाई ये वाला क्वेश्चन जो है वो आपको बहुत फ्रीक्वेंटली एग्जाम में भी नजर आएगा. मेक श्योर दैट यू नो हाउ टू ड्रॉ बैक टू बैक स्टेम प्लॉट. ओके, the meeting is about to end, so I'm going to take a break for about 10-15 minutes, and I'm going to come back and then start off with ways of grouping continuous data. उसके बाद जो है वो हम histograms वगैरह बनाना सीखेंगे. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do once we come back from our break. It's 8:40 right now. Let's come back at 8:50. Then we'll do another 40 minutes class and end by 9:30 today. Okay, I'll see you after the break. Okay. Now, one thing that I've not done. Okay, let's start again. अच्छा हम start करते हैं ways of grouping continuous data से. This is just to show you that there are various ways of making frequency tables, and you will see them in various ways on the exam as well. आपको जो है वो कहीं कहीं नजर आएंगे, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ पे मुझे क्या प्रॉब्लम नजर आ रहा है कि ये जो है वो क्लासेस आपस में कनेक्टेड नहीं है. तो मेरा पहला काम क्या होगा, whenever I see such a frequency table, I should connect the classes together. This gap should be eliminated, it shouldn't stand there. So this will become 31.5, this will also become 31.5, then this becomes 36.5 and 36.5 and so on. Okay, so whenever I see classes that are disconnected, I should do this. If you look at the third frequency table that I have on the screen, what you can tell me is okay, the upper boundaries are missing, so I can fill in the upper boundaries. Okay, because every frequency table should have upper boundaries. Now this is my choice, 18 to whatever I want. Typical class interval in this frequency table is 3, so that's what I'm going to put it out as 21. Okay, I can also I match the previous frequency table and say that this should be 24 for that matter if I want to add 6 to it. Okay, this one is missing lower class boundary, so I'm going to say that mass minimum जो है वो 0 हो सकता है, so I'm going to start with 0 and then 250 and 500. Okay. Um, then this next frequency table is from 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 60. So these classes are connected. There's no other problem with that. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to change that. Okay. Last one has to be changed, and that's obvious. Okay. Then width of an interval, or it's also called class width, is the next thing. Okay, sorry, my mic was mute. I just explained to you what different boundaries होती हैं. कुछ केसेस में अपर बाउंड्रीज मिसिंग थी, तो मैंने अपर बाउंड्रीज फिल कर दी हैं यहाँ पे. ओके, अगली वाली की लोअर बाउंड्री जो है वो पिछली क्लास की अपर बाउंड्री हो जाएगी एंड सो ऑन. ओके, एंड इसमें लोअर बाउंड्रीज मिसिंग थी, तो मैंने यहाँ पे लोअर बाउंड्रीज फिल कर दी. इट्स जस्ट अबाउट मैचिंग. इन केस अब मैं आखिरी वाले में बता रहा था कि फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ पे अब मुझे नजर आ रहा है क्लासेस डिस्कनेक्टेड हैं, तो मुझे इनको पहले आपस में कनेक्ट करना पड़ेगा एंड देन जो है मैं उसको आगे जो भी काम उस पर करना है. ओके, लेट्स स्टार्ट ऑफ विद दिस. विड्थ ऑफ एन इंटरवल लिखा है. विड्थ ऑफ एन इंटरवल इज क्लास विड्थ. you've done it, you can call it class width or width of an interval. कैसे calculate होती है? It's upper class boundary minus lower class boundary. Remember that this upper class boundary and lower class boundary is only possible when classes are connected. If they are not connected, it's your responsibility to connect them first and then calculate the width of an interval, not before that. If you do it before that, it's going to be wrong. Okay. Histograms, it says a histogram is best suited to illustrating continuous data, but it can also be used to illustrate discrete data. We might have to group the data ourselves, or it may be given to us in a grouped frequency table, such as those presented in the tables below. Okay, in a histogram, the area of a column represents the frequency of the corresponding class. We'll look at this later. This is what I want you to notice, that the vertical axis of the histogram is labeled frequency density, which measures frequency per standard interval. Okay, The simplest and most commonly used standard interval is 1 unit of measurement. You don't need to worry about this. You need to worry about the first sentence. The vertical axis of the histogram is labeled frequency density. Frequency density is calculated as frequency divided by class width. That is something that you also do in O levels again. I want to re-emphasize this because I see this as a huge problem when you are doing drawing histograms on the exam. You will have to draw histograms on the exam as well. So make sure that you draw them correctly. Okay. So how do I start off with drawing a histogram? This is draw the histogram for the frequency table above. I will be given a grid space like this. So I will have to draw the histogram here. Uh, what I will do is I will first calculate the class widths. Okay. Class widths are upper boundaries minus lower boundaries. So 20, 20 minus 0 gives me 20, 40 minus 20 gives me 20, 50 minus 40 gives me 10, 70 minus 50 gives me 20, 100 minus 70 gives me 30. Frequency density, 4 divided by 20. Okay, if I'm doing 4 divided by 20, that gives me 0.2. 44 divided by 20, that gives me 2.2. 36 divided by 20 gives me 3.6, 1.4, and 0.2. Okay, so my next task is to then draw this on a histogram, on a graph paper. So I will be given a grid space on the exam, no separate graph papers. This is the only space that you have, and you have to manage within the space that they've given you. So I've drawn my vertical and horizontal axes. Uh, I need to go from 0 to 100. So I'm going to mark this 0, 20, 40, 60. What is this? I have to label my axis. This is age. And then on the vertical axis, I have to plot frequency density. I have to go up till 4. So I'm going to mark 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. Okay, so 0 to 20 के बीच में कितनी high bar है 0.2 की. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 0. Mark 0.2 here, and I'm going to draw a bar from 0 to 20. Okay, from 20 to 40, I have 0 or 2.2. So I'm going to draw 2.2. Then 40 to 50 is 3.6. Now remember that this bar is narrower, so you have to make sure that you draw it whatever its correct width is. 40 to 50. Okay, yes.
Very
No, that's physics. That's not math. Okay. 50 to 70, 1.4. And then 70 to 100 is 0.2 again. Okay, on the exam, रिकमेंडेड है कि आप हल्का हल्का शेड कर दें ताकि एग्जामिनर को नजर आए। अक्सर पेंसिल के मार्क्स होते हैं उतने डार्क नहीं होते कि सब कुछ नजर आ रहा है एग्जामिनर को, सो द एग्जामिनर शुड बी एबल टू सी कि आपने क्या प्लॉट किया हुआ है। उसके दो तरीके हैं, एक तो ये आपने शेडिंग कर दी हल्की हल्की, और दूसरा काम आपने ये किया कि आपने जो है वो बार्स के ऊपर जो है वो नंबर्स भी लिख दिए कि आपने क्या क्या प्लॉट किया हुआ है। सो मैंने यहाँ पे 0.2 प्लॉट किया था, 2.2 प्लॉट किया था, 3.6 प्लॉट किया था, 1.4 plot किया था and 0.2 plot किया था. Okay, so that is what my histogram will look like. It shows me the shape of the data that I have and everything else as well. Important बातें क्या हैं कि ऊपर frequency density plot होनी चाहिए और नीचे जो है वो age plot होनी चाहिए. अगर मैं आपको एक सिंपल सा होमवर्क का आपका सवाल दिखाऊं, it's asking going to ask you for something very basic and then I'm going to show you another histogram as well. ये देखें, ये सवाल है. It says the distance of a student's home from college correct to the nearest kilometer was recorded for each of 20 to 55 students. The distances were summarized in the following table. Give two reasons why this is not a correct histogram. Okay, so why is this not a correct histogram? You can obviously see कि इसके बीच में gaps आए हुए हैं, यानी इस बंदे ने जब हिस्टोग्राम बनाया तो इसने क्लासेस को जो है वो आपस में कनेक्ट नहीं किया था. सही है, गिवन दैट द हिस्टोग्राम has gaps in between, which means that the classes weren't connected when he did that. What is the second mistake that this guy has done? Can you spot the second mistake? Anyone?
फोर्थ मार गया
Oh, I think that that's more of a printing thing. It's not something that you can point out. एक और fundamental सा ये है. क्या गैप तो दिया हुआ है, उसके अलावा क्या एरर है? There's one more error. इसने frequency density नहीं प्लॉट की, इसने सिर्फ frequency प्लॉट कर दी. Okay, so it's very important to make sure that you've plotted frequency density. Okay, taking you back to histograms. Let's look at this one. Together, these are the examination marks for a group of 120 first year statistics students. Marks दिए हुए and frequency दिए हुए. What is my first gut feeling कि पहले मैं देखूंगा classes connected है या नहीं है, तो मैं classes को connect करना शुरू करूंगा. So 9 और 10 के बीच में gap है. So I'm going to say that this becomes 9.5, this also becomes 9.5, this becomes 19.5, this becomes also 19.5 to 29.5, 29.5 to 49.5, and 49.5 to, I have to adjust this boundary as well. So I'm going to say that this becomes 79.5. एक boundary adjust नहीं हुई, but which boundary is that? What should be the first boundary? Should I also adjust the zero boundary? Should I also take it backwards? जिस तरह बाकी सारी boundaries backwards गई हैं. क्या सारी को again? नेगेटिव कर दूं, नेगेटिव 0.5.
नहीं वही कह रहा हूँ नेगेटिव नहीं हो जाएगा वुड दैट बी रॉन्ग
That would be wrong. Why would that be wrong?
बिकॉज़ मार्क्स डोंट गो नेगेटिव
Marks don't go in negative. Although on the other hand, अगर हसन ये जो है वो हसन ये जो है वो उसका डेटा होता, लेट्स से टेम्परेचर्स का डेटा होता, तो हसन मैं क्या करता, फिर मैं नेगेटिव लेके चला जाता उसको. सही है, बट सिंस डेटा की नेचर ऐसी है कि वो नेगेटिव नहीं जा सकता, इसलिए मैंने उसको नेगेटिव नहीं किया. सही है. ओके, सो दैट इज करेक्ट. सो दिस इज गोइंग टू गिव यू अ लिटिल ऑकवर्ड सॉर्ट ऑफ सिचुएशन कि जहां तुम क्लास विड्थ फिर निकालने जाओगे, तो क्लास विड्थ जो होगी वो बड़ी ऑकवर्ड से होगी. पहली वाली 9.5 होगी, दूसरी वाली जो होगी वो 10 होगी, तीसरी वाली भी 10 होगी. Then we have 20 and then you have 30. Okay, so the first boundary is a little awkward and that's absolutely fine. This is there in one of the past paper questions as well. इसलिए मैं specifically आपको बता रहा हूँ कि कहीं कहीं ये trick भी examiner ने रखी होती है कि if you don't do this, the examiner is going to subtract 1 mark out of, you know, whatever the rule is. 4 marks के generally histogram बनाने का सवाल आता है. Okay, so frequency density then. Frequency divided by class width. So 8 divided by 9.5. So that gives me 0.84, I think, 2.1, 5.3. 1.4 and 0.33. Okay. Now, when I'm drawing this histogram as well, पहले तो मैं axis बना लूँ अपनी. Okay, when I'm drawing this histogram as well, what I have to notice is कि मुझे जो bars बनानी है वो 0 to 9.5 बनानी है. Okay, मैं अपनी axis तो अपनी normally mark करूँगा. मैं कहूँगा I need to go up till 80. Okay, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and these are marks. Yes. जरूरी नहीं होता, बट आपका हिस्टोग्राम बहुत ज़्यादा कंजेस्टेड नहीं होना चाहिए. Okay. Now when I'm drawing the first bar from 0 to 9.5, I have to make sure that मैं 10 पे ना बना रहा हूँ. I have to show the examiner that I've actually tried to draw 9.5. Now, given that it's very narrow, you can't possibly show me an exact thing. But still, you should try कि ये जो आप 9.5 की बार बनाना शुरू करें, ये लाइन इन दोनों बॉक्सेस के बीच में आ रही है और फिर 0.84 तो तकरीबन मैं यहाँ पे लेके जाऊँगा. I'm going to join this here. Okay. So that's my first one. And then 10, then I have 9.5, so 19.5, and I need to go to a height of 2.1, so I'm going to continue this bar up to 2.1 and draw 19.5 here as well. Okay. Then 19.5 to 29.5. And how high do I want to go? 5.3. Then 29.5 to 49.5 and 1.4. And then 79.5 and 0.33. Okay, so that is what my histogram will look like. Okay. I can shade inside and then label the top of the bars as well. That's 0.84. Okay, and that should be my histogram. Okay, so that was about drawing histograms. I hope this was okay for you. Let's do this as the last question for today and we'll stop there. That is the natural stoppage point for me. Okay, it says to finding the frequencies from a histogram. Now, if you notice, the table is already drawn for you. The histogram is already drawn for you. What is the question asking you? It says the Passengers Association conducted a survey on the punctuality of trains using a particular station. The histogram illustrates the result. Construct the frequency distribution. Okay, so whenever now I need to come up with a table like that was there for me as a question. Now I have the answer. Basically, I have the histogram drawn in front of me, but I want to draw a frequency table for you now. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do classes, and I'm going to say that this is in minutes, and I'm going to say that I have a lot of classes. The first class is from 0 to 5. The second is one is from 5 to 10, then from 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, No, it's not from 30 to 40, it's from 30 to 50, and then 50 to 70. Now, from the graph, I cannot read the frequency. I can first read the frequency density. Okay, so for each of these classes, I'm going to read the frequency density. The first one looks like 6.4. This graph is a little smudged because I copied it from a book. It's not from past papers. On the exam, you will have a pretty clear, what line is where and everything. You'll be able to see the grid as well. Okay, I can show you that in the past paper questions. This looks about 2.8. Okay, I didn't write that one. That's 8.8. And then I have 2.8. And then I have 1.2, 0.6, and 0.2. Okay, I have all of these. Okay, so then I want frequency. If you remember, frequency density had the formula frequency. Yes, you will multiply frequency density with its class width. But Habib, I don't have class widths right now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first write class widths. 5 minus 0, 5, 10 minus 5, 5, 20 minus 10, 10, 10, 20, and this is 50 to 80. Sorry, this is 50 to 80, so 30. 5 into 6.4 gives me 32, 5 into 8.8 gives me 44, 10 into 2.8 gives me 28, 10 into 1.2 gives me 12, 20 into 0.6 gives me 12 again, 30 into 0.2 gives me 6. तो ये सारी कैलकुलेशंस मैंने आपके लिए कर ली और मैंने आपके लिए एक फ्रीक्वेंसी टेबल बना दिया. I just want you to compile it into a table so that the examiner can see. It's not necessary to write frequency density in this table. You can directly write the frequency, and that's what you should ideally do. You can just write your frequency densities here once you read them, 6.6 और 8.8. तो ऊपर एक बात कही हुई थी, ऊपर एक बात क्या कही हुई थी कि यहाँ पे कहा हुआ था कि in a histogram the area of a column represents the frequency of the corresponding class. So if you just calculate the area of this bar, area of a rectangle क्या होता है? Area of a rectangle is length into width. So if you multiply the length, which is 6.6, with its width, which is 5, you will again get the frequency, and that's what I've gotten कि पहली वाली frequency जो है वो 32 आ गई है क्योंकि इस bar का area जो है वो 32 था. Okay, so this was what was written in the lecture notes. I had to explain it later on, इसलिए मैंने वहाँ पे रखा था. Then how many trains were there in the survey? So what you do is you add up all of these: 32, 44, 28, 12, 12, and 6. So I get what? Can someone add this for me quickly? I don't get it. Yeah, sorry. ये तो आप पढ़ेंगे तो पता चलेगा. आप ये मेरे लेक्चर से जज ना करें टॉपिक को. 134. Okay, 134 are there. Okay, so there were 134 trains in this survey. Okay, you will see a lot of questions in the पेपर जहाँ पे आपको जो है ना कोई एक चीज बताई होगी और फिर उसने कहा होगा कि हिस्टोग्राम से रीड करो इन्फॉर्मेशन या हिस्टोग्राम को कंप्लीट करो डिपेंडिंग ऑन व्हाट द क्वेश्चन इज अबाउट. Okay, so you see this question a lot in the exams. Representation of data is a very long topic. I've just done 1/4 of the topic with you right now. This is representation of data part 1. उसका भी अभी first half हुआ है. Not exactly the first half. There's a lot to go on right now, and we'll talk about that in the next class. Okay, the stream was recorded on YouTube, so if you missed part of it, please go back and watch it. Whatever was missed, I will see you in the next class. If there are no other questions, I'm going to end here.